Hello, hello, and welcome to Talking to Food Safety Professionals. My name is Dr. Jenny Lynn James, and I'm a food safety professional with over 25 years of experience in the industry. With me today is Dr. Donna Garren. Hello, Donna.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you. So, Donna is the Executive Vice President for Government Affairs, and she's with the American Frozen Food Institute. So today, Donna is going to tell us about food law, the ins and outs. So I'm very interested to learn about this topic.
Great. Well, thanks for having me. This is my passion. Working for trade association, that is one of the primary roles. In addition to bringing, members of a category, in our case, frozen food industry, together on common, issues, also through gathering and networking. One of the key roles that members of trade associations rely on is this regulatory and legislative world that I live in that develops policy,
Okay.
develops what industry has to comply with in the way of rules and regulations from FDA or USDA, which you train on. And training is one of those things that was in the rule for the Food Safety Modernization Act. So this can be a long process for, the example of FSMA. It had seven different rules that had to be developed after it was enacted by Congress and signed into law by President Obama. And that was all food safety related. It was basically a rehauling of, you know, and responding to outbreaks of like how do we create more robust regulations that the industry can implement in a way to reduce outbreak burden.
Okay.
So basically, before 2011, when it was signed, there was a significant upswell of both members of Congress and even trade associations that are in both the consumer side and the industry side that were advocating for change.
Okay.
When I was at the United Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Association, I testified in front of Congress, and the members of that committee were really driving change, which
Okay.
led to the Food Safety Modernization Act. And they really wanted to understand what was going on. Say, in that time, it was the fresh produce industry that I was talking about. Um, but that led to this rule, this regulation, this law, and it led to, again, many other regulations that
Ah,
then occurred, from anything from traceability to preventive controls, which changed the whole dynamic of moving from the traditional HACCP model to now the preventive control. So it
yes.
was
Yes.
really a big shift
Yes.
thinking. It was intended to be a risk-based approach to looking at hazards within people's operation. It hasn't necessarily, it's been 15 years, which
Yeah.
again, crazy. Um, that was the intent and spirit, So the process is that FDA, in this case, since it was related to FDA specifically, um, would issue rules or propose rules, actually, and could be an announcement of a proposed rule. So that's
Yes.
even before a proposed rule is implemented. I mean, put out there. So it's published from the agency, and say the first one came out, it was related to preventive controls, and how food safety needs to do risk assessment. You form a plan, you make sure that the plan is reflective of the hazards, and then what type of controls you need to put in place as part of your food safety plan. So, there was an advance notice of rulemaking, then there was the proposed rule, and then there's, the final rule that's issued. And in between that time, the role of someone like myself that does regulatory affairs is to provide comments,
Okay.
and have it reflect your industry's desire to have both a practical but also an achievable regulation at the end of the day.
Yes.
So, I've been lucky to work in trade associations where the expertise that we have in-house really lends itself to developing comments back to FDA that have resulted in significant change to the rules to make them better,
Okay. Very
so that
good.
they can be achieved by the industry.
Yes.
Um, and it leads to also other industries, and the trade association world is really small. So I've worked with a number of sector specific trade associations, and
Okay.
our whole intent is to try to get the rules right.
Uh-huh.
And ultimately, so does FDA in this case that managed the creation of the rules. And then it led to six other rules that they did the same process of, advanced rulemaking, notice of rulemaking, proposed rule, and then a final rule. But um, what happens a lot of time in DC is that you see constituents want to get involved and they want the rules out quicker.
Okay.
Um, it was taking a while for the different regulations because it was a big overhaul of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, and it required thoughtful and profound thinking around what is really going to improve and have fulfill the spirit and intent of the original law of to be preventive, to be risk-based. And it takes a lot of experts around the room to make these things happen.
Right. Right.
Um, and there was also court cases. That's what happens in DC. If it doesn't come out fast enough, somebody's going to sue about it. So FDA was
Mhm.
under additional pressure to put out additional rules, and they still had six more to go. And it really led to kind of rushed thinking, to put a rule out in a certain amount of time.
Yes.
So you still have to go through the same rulemaking process where we provide comments, FDA, thinks through the comments and then modifies
So how many years would this take?
it- um, there are still guidance documents that still need to be done for
Oh,
15 years. So,
my goodness.
um, it can take a while or it can be really short. I mean, it's kind of like the
Mhm.
codex process. I don't know if anybody knows anything about the codex, but you have so many stages of finalizing of something that Codex Alimentarius will make in the way of a standard
Oh,
that's
yes.
globally recognized.
Yes.
And that can take years. Like the milk standard, it took like 25 years, but then the
Wow.
fresh produce, it took just a couple of years because there was a sense of urgency and a
Okay.
need by the collective. And I think that was the same, particularly early on in regards to the preventive controls. But when they started having the pressure to develop rules quickly, what that leads to are rules that aren't fully developed in a way that the average, particularly small or medium-sized company can implement it or
Right.
read the rule. It takes a bunch of lawyers to read these rules and say,
And then would rules be changed if mistakes or glitches are
no,
identified?
what they do guidance documents.
Okay.
So they can go back and propose another rule, but that's a little bit harder process.
Okay.
What they'll do is after the fact, they will develop what they refer to as guidance documents that help with that implementation. So
Okay.
then there's comment periods associated with the guidance documents, and many
Ah,
of the related to the preventive controls and all the other traceability rule sanitary design, the sanitation, transportation, there's been so many foreign supplier verification program. All these things have resulted from FSMA, the original FSMA law, and guidance document is needed for all of them so that companies can implement them. And many of those are still in draft form.
right.
So I think for us, it is an ongoing process. This is why I love it, in that while it seems like this is a slow process, it always gives me something new to do and investigate and to make sure that rules that our industry are going to have to comply with
Yeah.
are actual achievable, and that they can do it and they can do it well and with the intent to actually improve their operations from a food safety standpoint.
Okay, well, thank you so much for this insightful presentation. So many of us who work in the industry and we're not aware of what goes on behind the scenes of food laws. Thank you
How
so
the
much.
sausage is made, basically.
We're happy to get this introduction anyway to food laws. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Please hit the like button, like our video, and remember to subscribe to the channel Food Safety Smart so you can be notified every time we interview another amazing food scientist. Hit the subscribe button. Thank you.